Hey guys, welcome back to Salem the Crafting MMO, and do I look different today? I think I look a little bit different today. That's right, I've got myself a plague mask. Well, there we go, a plague doctor's mask, and that means I'm now pretty much protected from airborne diseases, which is going to be very, very good. So I'm wearing this from now on, so although I do love the look of the noobish maple leaf mask, I'm gonna wear this just to make sure I don't have to go through the hassle of dealing with diseases. So they're quite expensive, 700 silver from the stalls. Anyway, and not just that, you might notice a little bit more different about my base if I zoom out here. That's right, I've been leveling up and building up my claim, and I have claimed all the way up to the side of the road here and built a stone wall around my base. Now I'm not entirely protected, but there we go. I've got, well, at least a proper sized area to work with. So if you see my claim, let me display my personal claim here. I did actually manage to claim all of this up. So now that I've actually got some proper space to work with, we can start going into more advanced things. And as you can see here, I've been spending quite a bit of time sort of sprucing up my porch here by paving the ground. I got some dross from my smelting. I used dross to pave this dark grey stuff, which is used for our village roads here. And I thought bricks would look nice to sort of side this main walkway. It looks a bit weird going up to this wooden fence, but oh well, we'll get to sprucing that up later. And speaking of sprucing up, you might notice the tree positioning is a little bit different. And these pots, these gardening pots, they don't have vegetables or fruits or mushrooms growing in them. They've got little trees. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, forestry, because I've managed to get myself a skill. Forestry, let me go ahead and bring it up here. Forestry. Now, this one's a little trickier to get because it requires herbs and sprouts 8,000, but I managed to get this through basically studying a lot of flower arrangements being the inspirational and the collection and potpourri flower arrangement. It takes these pretty common ingredients: devil's wort, lily pad bulbs, wild garlic, and ferns. You get a lot of those, and each flower arrangement is 3 uses. So I studied a whole bunch of those and got myself forestry, so we can talk about that today. Now, what does forestry do? Well, it's got a bit of a description here, but I'm going to show it to you. Now, forestry allows you to plant trees and to strike cuttings from existing trees. And it also allows you to unlock trees that aren't so common in the wild. As you are probably familiar with all these trees you see here. This sort of yellow one, this green one, the small red one, the big red one. And if I bring up my inventory, I've got a number of cuttings here: a grand maple cutting, red maple cutting, oak cutting, and here we go, something new, chestnut cutting. So chestnut trees aren't really out there. You just sort of find chestnuts lying on the ground, but I find them quite decorative. I like the way they look. So because they are also functional, I'd like to line my little opening pathway here with certain useful trees. Now, I've got this pine tree growing here, or a spruce rather, and there's no pine nuts on it yet, but it's still growing. You can see I have a spruce tree here, which is somewhat bigger. But how do we actually go about starting this? Well, to get a cutting, you basically just have to walk up to a tree, and once you get the forestry skill, you'll see something new: strike cutting. And you can go ahead and strike up to 2 cuttings per tree. So there we go, I've got a birch cutting. You can get a second one off it as well, and then you have to wait for it to regenerate basically. But there we go, I've got 2 birch cuttings as well in my inventory. And then we just sort of plant it like a normal gardening plant. So let me go ahead and get myself some humus here. Now, let's talk a bit about purity. So obviously, now that we can manipulate trees, we can manipulate tree purity. So my humus here is now going at about 30%. Because of those worms I've got in there. I've increased the purity of the worms in my compost bin, and so that increases the purity of my humus. And the purity of the tree is based on a couple things. So there is the purity of the pot itself. So this pot here has 2% purity, it's rather low. I've got this 30% humus going in there, and of course the purity of the cutting. So here I've got the chestnut cutting, which is at 21.37 purity. So we should get a decent-ish tree out of this. And then I'm going to go ahead and... oh wait, I forgot to water it, of course. get your bucket of water, water the pot, and then we can go ahead and plant our little tree. And there it is. A little chestnut growing there. And I've got a little spruce growing in that one. And I should talk about its survival. Now, it doesn't automatically survive. If you look at these two pots here, here is a spruce that I've just planted. And here's a spruce, or two spruces here, which I planted a while ago, a few days ago actually. And you can see one pretty much died, and the other one managed to sprout. So that means this one here can be planted, but this one dies. So its chance of survival is actually based on two things. It's based on your skills. So if I bring this up, basically it checks twice. When you strike a cutting from a tree, so let's say if I were to strike a cutting here, if the success, its survival rate is checked at the striking bit, which it will check your flora and fauna, there we go, flora and fauna, and your natural philosophy. Now, I'm not too sure about the mathematics behind it, but the higher those two are, the higher your success rate of striking a surviving cutting. And then it checks again when you plant it. You saw I planted it just now. And then at that point, it's going to check your stocks and cultivars and your natural philosophy. So if you're planning on selling cuttings, you better make sure your flora and fauna and natural philosophy are very high and your cuttings are actually generally good to go. But it also means if you buy cuttings off of people, it doesn't mean that it's going to be a complete success rate now, is it? All right, so and now that we've planted one in a pot, I can go ahead and take this spruce and plant it in the ground. So ones that die, we could inspect it and basically it didn't survive. If I pick it, it's just going to give us a branch and it's dead. That cutting's gone. But this one here survived. And if I right click on it, nothing happens. Because to plant it, I have to go to Adventure, Lift, and I'm going to pick up the pot. There we go. And now, if I right-click on the ground, it's going to give me two options, to plant or to drop. Now, I'm going to go ahead and plant it in this little plot that I've saved for it. There we go. And we can go ahead and place this back on the ground. Now, in case you want to place things accurately, you just right-click on the object you're carrying, and it brings up a sort of a shadow of it. You can even shift mouse wheel to rotate it, however you like, and then left-click to place it back down. There we go, we'll put that down. And there we go. I've now planted a little spruce tree. I'm just sprucing up my base here. We could chop it down now, but if you leave it, it will grow into a full-size tree eventually. And that's basically forestry. Now, just to demonstrate the effects of purity, I can go ahead and pick a couple branches off of this spruce tree. There we go. And these branches are actually 15% pure, or 15.28. And that's when I got a 0% cutting just out from the wild, and I put it in a pot which was about, it was a new pot, so it was 0% on the pot and 30% on my humus. So it went to about 15%, 15% purity from the 30% humus. And so that's basically it, really. I've got a nice driveway going. I'm not too sure exactly what trees I'd like here, but the chestnut trees do look nice. I do like the chestnut trees. You also get access to walnut trees as well, if you actually manage to do that. Often you can buy cuttings from the players' stalls out in the main town of Providence. But in general, that's an update on the status of my base, growing quite nicely here. I've basically quadrupled the size of my base. I've got so much more. And you can see I'm starting to build things around as well. So that pretty much covers the basics of forestry. And if you want to refer to instructions, they are actually in here as well. But hopefully this video did help you out as well. All right, so that concludes forestry in Salem. Hope you enjoyed the video. And remember, if you'd like to support the channel, there's a link in the description box down below. It's a referral link. If you sign up with an account there and buy stuff off the store, well, a cut does go to me. And that's how referral links work, really. All right, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.